And maybe just taking a step back, like what actually went into planning all this? Like, I mean, obviously we're talking about
Yeah.
how it was like this massive success, but I don't think people realize like how much work and how many people behind the scenes there are working, and like how much time did it actually take to coordinate, plan? Like, how did you decide who was going to be in it? All of that stuff, just from like a pure logistics side, I think would be interesting to hear.
Yeah, it's actually quite complex. And the first one was just as difficult. First time doing it, having to deal with 32 different POVs plus Jimmy's three POVs, and having to switch those pretty periodically. And then also the randomness of Jimmy being like, "Hey, cut to Chandler. Hey, throw a frog on the screen. Put like money on the screen." And so having some like a team in the back end actually being able to do that. But this had been something that we'd been planning for the last 3 months. We'd known about Creator Games 2 for a while, since midsummer because of the success of the first one. And so we had a large production team. We ended up using a company named Fly on the Wall, who actually did the first one as well. And they had a few people on location. Obviously, there's rules that we had to abide by because of COVID, so we couldn't have their whole team out there, but we did have a few. And then we had a lot of people in a control room, either in Los Angeles or in New York, which helped with. And this is one thing that people don't think about as well. You have to do individual tech checks for each of those influencers just to make sure their mic works, their camera works. One thing I didn't think about is that if they have something on the wall, like I have all this stuff back here, and you have stuff on the back of your wall. If you don't own that, you got to remove it, right?
Hmm.
And so we had a lot of issues with like people having things in the background that they didn't have rights to put in the show. And so we had to have a team check on clearances and remove all that. And then we also had to have a large team actually drafting questions and then fact checking those questions.
Oh
So
wow.
this was a 3 month process to get this show together. Everyone worked in unison, and thank goodness it went off without a hitch. I think my biggest, the one thing that I was probably fearful about was us getting hacked, and that ended up not happening, thank goodness, after the first one. But yeah, I think people underestimate the amount of people that actually have to work behind the scenes, and thanks to YouTube Originals, they were so helpful in this entire process and getting some of the creators to sign on and helping with legal clearances and things like that. So big W's all around.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, like, what does that even mean to be like a YouTube original? And like, does that mean you guys struck a deal with YouTube to help put this on? Were they technically the sponsor of this, like, the creator games? What does that actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at it like a sponsor. It's YouTube's. It's a internal team inside of YouTube or inside of Google that is responsible for larger productions. They like to lean towards creators, but they've done things like Cobra Kai that I'm sure
Hmm.
people have watched on YouTube Originals that I think is on another streaming service now, all the way down to documentaries. They did a In Sync Backstreet Boys documentary, a few other really awesome documentaries that you guys should go check out. But we struck a deal with them. They also did the first one. They signed on for the second one. So they paid for most of the production and the prize pool and all that. And so again, thanks to YouTube Originals for getting involved, and hopefully we can figure out some more things to do with them. We're currently in talks for a few more projects that we can't technically announce or talk about yet. That will be on the same scale, if not bigger. Actually, one of these is way bigger than anything I think any creator has ever done, but that's kind of become Jimmy's MO. So we'll see. But yeah, YouTube Originals has been great. And if you're a larger creator out there, I'm sure you've spoken with them. And if you haven't, you should definitely get connected.
Yeah, no, and I think that makes a lot of sense. As far as I guess it's like if you had to put a number on how much it cost, or if you can share, or like and how many people actually were like behind the scenes, like I think it'd just be interesting to know that, like depending on what you can share.
Yeah, I probably can't share the cost, just because there is some this non-disclosures and things
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
in place. But people behind the scene easily 40, I
Wow.
would say,
Oh my
scaling
gosh.
up to 60. If you include Night Media plus Fly on the Wall plus YouTube Originals plus Mr. Beast's internal production crew, we easily had 50 people working on this, just to get this one live stream done. So the scale of this project, and that's not. And we didn't have a lot of people in studio. We had
Yeah.
3 sets. We had some of your 100 Thieves boys. We had Courage and Nade Shot come out, and Courage was amazing, as always. And Nade Shot, I think, has a career in broadcast or play by play or whatever he wants to go into. After all this 100 Thieves stuff is over, he definitely has a career. He is actually very, very good. and was very entertaining during the show. And so we had 3 sets, and then we had a school set with which Chris and Carl. And honestly, the team that was at the studio was probably only 10 because of what was going on and COVID regulation, but easily 30 people behind the scenes that weren't physically there.
Wow. That's insane. I think it's super easy to be watching and just being like, oh, it's just like this group of people, and like there isn't a bunch of people working to put it all together. But I think even just the idea of coordinating all of those like live streams, or like getting all these people to broadcast whatever, I don't know what software you guys were using, but I have to imagine
Mm-hmm.
that in itself is a difficult task. So yeah, I think it's just, I think people continue to underestimate how much work goes into these things, and so yeah, I just think it's super interesting.
What was so like I said before, I didn't get to see both perspectives, right? What was your like highlighted 1v1, right? Creator versus creator highlighted matchup. I know you talked a little bit about laser beam. I have no idea what he said. All I got was what Nate Shot was saying to him. So what were the highlights to you?
Oh man, I think Laserbeam was just hilarious. Like I've knew of Laserbeam and have watched a couple of his videos, but I think his personality really showed through on the stream. And he was making jokes about like not going to school and dropping out, and that was the
Okay.
banter. Is like Nate Shot was like stay in school, and Laserbeam's like, if I win, then like can we get Nate Shot to admit that people shouldn't go to stay in school? And I think overall though, like I was super impressed with like D'Amelio's. I was like, wow, that's
Hmm.
crazy. I wasn't expecting to make it that far. And also like even just the idea that like I think it's super cool that all these creators allocated, I don't know, it was probably 3 hours, 4 hours worth of time, depending on if they were before or
Yep.
after. Like and I just thought that was awesome that like so many of these creators were down to do that, and devote 3 or 4 hours on their Saturday to do it. And so it's hard to say a specific moment, but I think overall, I think Laserbeam was like the one who stole the show from me. I was just like, this guy's hilarious. Like, I need to go and watch more of his content. And that was one other cool aspect of it, is I got exposure to like new creators that I maybe wouldn't have watched otherwise, or like been as familiar with. And obviously they were already massive. So like I think I don't
Yeah.
even know who the smallest creator was on there, but like all of them were already massive. But it definitely inspired me to like search a lot of those people up, because like, wow, that seems like they have a great personality.